What's good, y'all? What's happening? Okay, now we live. Okay, cool. Live. What's happening, y'all? What's good?
Lá is Portuguese for over there.
What is good, y'all? Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Cleared something. What's happening? Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this for a little bit, man. Uh, I've talked about, you know, our financial system, the economy, and things like that. I want to speak on how it relates to uh, uh, you know to college, how it relates to the American people directly, as far as the Federal Reserve printing money out of thin air, um, the Federal Reserve, just to give you some information on how our money uh, is printed, because we have to talk about this. You know, our money is printed out of thin air. Our money is not American. Our money is basically international. The people who own the mints that print our money out of thin air do not have the interest of the American people. They only have the interest of, um, you know, the international central bankers. And we have to be clear of that. And so when I speak on college, college is not such a bad thing as far as the resources that are there, the networking possibilities. You know what I'm saying? College is good for networking and getting your education and, especially particular fields that can give you straight up good careers if, if you love to study within those fields, such as engineering, architecture, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, you know, not general based degrees, but very specific degrees like accounting, financing, things like that. Those types of degrees, you know, uh, can basically help you establish a career. More general based like business degrees and things like that, they can help, but you basically would benefit more by, surrounding yourself with a group of people who like to do what you like to do and who are serious with what y'all want to do as far as your careers. You know what I'm saying? After college is over. You know what I mean? And, you know, you being able to start as an entrepreneur while you're in college, that can have a lot of benefits as well. It's how you make the experience. So I'm not shitting on college as far as a tool, what I'm saying, to help people um, to further their careers. Now, I will say this about college: it is a scam. It is a major scam. The reason why it's a major scam because our financial system is a scam, and if our financial system is a scam and it controls everything from top of government all the way to the bottom to where it affects us, then you know our education systems are going to be scams. And so our education system is a scam because knowledge is monetized in an era where information is abundant and easily accessible. You know what I'm saying? So we're in an era right now where you can learn so much about so many different genres, about infinity amount of genres. There's countless genres and fields of study to actually research and study in. And there's so much information to know in each of these fields, you can never run out of information. All right. So we have an abundance of knowledge. Now, abundance of knowledge and information just is is pretty much just as abundant as water. All right. So water is cheap because of its abundance. How the hell can we have these institutions, these universities, right, that are supposed to educate? Now, understand, education is one of those services where, you do it for the good of people. You know what I'm saying? This is for the goodwill, all right? Just like being a doctor, you do it to help people. You're supposed to do it to help people, you know? Um, these are humane services that we need. We need people to look over the sick and heal the sick, and we need these types of people. We need teachers. We need professors. These are things that civilizations cannot do without. So if we can't do without these anyway, then why monetize them? And if information, especially in today's age, is this abundant, then why, if we do monetize it, why is it so expensive? So this is why, you know, we have to understand social economics before we start talking investment. I'm talking about long-term investment in a system, that wasn't meant or built to give you any real power, because this whole system is in place to maintain the power that the ruling elite have, that they have accumulated, you know, through generations. All right. These people come from lineages of families that go back generations, and they understand history. They understand the truth, not under the context of, how the conquerors write the history, and the people who are conquered are subjected to that history. Since they are the conquered, they know the real history. Since they are the conquerors, they know their real history. They know everything. You know what I'm saying? They restrict the information from us so we don't know the history. You have these families that have been lasting for generations and generations, and they have these family businesses, these banking institutions that own entire nations. And they own entire nations through this minting process of establishing currencies. And, and basically when they take over land, they make the people use the money, basically. And that's just how it works. That's just how it works. And so you've got an educational system that is failing the American people. Why? Because one, it's too goddamn expensive. First off, one, they monetize knowledge, all right, and information. That's a crime against humanity. That's the first thing. You monetize information. Two, it's too goddamn expensive even when it's monetized. You know what I'm saying? That makes it even worse. So now you have these people, the rich, the wealthy, the elites, that own the land that these universities are on. Now, if somebody owns the land, somebody has to own the land that these universities are on. Now, universities ain't nothing more than a real estate investment. You got to look at it like this. Now, universities, educational institutions such as UCLA, you know what I'm saying? Got University of Texas, any university is on some land. Somebody owns the land. Who owns the land? Now, um, if they own the land, they don't, they own it. They just have to pay taxes on the land. You feel me? They just have to pay taxes on it. The property on the land, the property on the land. They own the land and the property. You know what I'm saying? Then, you know, shit, they only have to pay taxes on that. They don't got to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, you know what I'm saying, to rent it out. You know what I'm saying? They own it. You feel me? They're not renting it out to nobody. They own that shit. So if they own all of this land and property, somebody owns all the land, somebody owns all the property, or somebody owns a business, that manages that land and that property. Now, that's that's a lot of power for one person to hold, yet alone a small organization of people to hold, especially when they're charging $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a semester just to go to these schools. Now think about this. You're coming out of high school. Most people go to a public high school in America. You're coming out of high school where education is free, which is what it's supposed to be. You don't have any collateral. You don't have any work experience. And these people expect you to engage in a long term investment at the age of 18, knowing that they don't even teach financial literacy in these schools. And they don't even teach about the Federal Reserve. And they don't teach about none of that shit. They don't teach about the loaning process and how the money supply is increased by engaging into these contractual agreements that these central banks um, provide. They don't teach you about that shit. They don't go over that with you. They basically give you this whole illusion that if you go here, everything was going to be all right. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of these educational institutions they don't even teach true real information. You know what I'm saying? I've been to 5 different schools, 6 different schools actually. I've been to 6 different schools. I went to a different school every single year. Most of those schools, I have scholarships to go, for athletic scholarships for hooping and things like that. You know what I'm saying? And I want to get into that too, because I want to talk about the Rich Paul, uh, you know, situation. But thing about it is they make it as if you know you're lucky to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like you should be honored that you got to come here. They make it that way. They make it seem that way. But in reality, what you're getting out of that, not getting shit out of that. You get a degree out of that. I mean, I heard somebody say the other day, you know, they got mad at their brother because they said he got a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? And he said to his brother, "Shit, you sit at a desk long enough, they'll give you a piece of paper." And that's some real shit. That's some real shit. You stay loyal to, what I'm saying, a certain institution long enough, man, they'll give you some type of you know, validation on paper. You feel me? To let it be known. But, is that going to help you? Is that really going to give you what you're yearning for in life? Is it going to give you that financial stability that you need in order for you to, be a good citizen? You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people that graduate from these colleges and have to invest in these long-term contractual agreements in which you know they can't really make no true guarantee that they can pay that back. And these bankers know that. They understand what a secured loan and what an unsecured loan is. Now, what is a child coming out of high school? What is their collateral for the loan? What is the collateral for the loan? Oh, now you got to get into the parents and things like that. You know what I'm saying? And what their collateral is. Now you're going after collateral. So this is the problem I have with universities and their goddamn dumbass institutions. Because the whole financial institution is a sham. And for these universities that cost so much money to not give us no real information about how our society is operated, then, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? They don't need. So basically, if you know that these people are printing money out of thin air, which is illegal, because if me and you were to do it, it's counterfeiting. But we ain't supposed to have no kings and queens and no dictators. But yet we a democracy. If we a democracy, then I say, God damn it, the money ain't real. I ain't paying for shit. We need a new system. If it's a true democracy, then you should have a whole group of people that think the same way, think that way, versus another people who think we should have money. And then there should be basically a war. You know what I'm saying? That's what democracy basically means. We gonna have war because democracy ain't real. Ain't no such thing as no fucking democracy. We don't have democracy with capitalism. Come on, man. Come on. We don't have no democracy and capitalism. All right. These are illusions. We don't have that. So if we don't have that, and you as a U.S. citizen go into these, or you may not even be a U.S. citizen, but most people in America, U.S. citizens go to college. So if you're a U.S. citizen, understanding that the money's bullshit, you, your economics teachers ain't gonna tell you that shit. You know, they're gonna tell you that uh, basically the economy that we have is an economy, which is a goddamn lie. It's not an economy. It's an anti-economy. It's anti-economical because it's not efficient in the way that we utilize our resources. So we have an anti-economical system, and you know they don't teach you this in college. If they taught us this in college, then we would tear down the system. So the colleges are basically extensions of propaganda, and they basically provide more propaganda for us. You have propaganda from the mainstream media, Hollywood. Now you got to worry about you know all these universities too, all the propaganda surrounding it, you know, and it sucks. It sucks, but this is a valuable lesson that humanity has to learn. You know, we can't go on and keep monetizing every goddamn thing we see. Like everything has a price on it. Everything has a price on it. Everything. What next? Are they going to start pricing out clean air? You know what I'm saying? Like you can't live around here unless you have enough money to live here. If not, you're gonna have to. I mean, they basically kind of already do it. I mean, you can't have a rich neighborhood without a poor neighborhood. You can't have a suburbs without the hood. You know what I'm saying? So there's racism built in the system. There's corruption built within the system. So to have these universities makes absolutely no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. Meanwhile, as we have all these universities that cost so much money, right, to go to the school, just to pay to go, costs so much money to go to the school. Meanwhile, our debt is just getting higher and higher and higher, and the student loan debt is no different than the national debt. The student loan debt is going to continue to increase just like the national debt. There is nothing that these people are doing to offset this debt, to pay this debt back. And you're probably wondering, who are we in debt to? Well, you think that, oh, we in debt to China because we get a lot of products from China. We in debt to this country. No, 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 no. It is don't look. We are in debt to the Federal Reserve because the Federal Reserve loans the U.S. government the money for a set period of time on interest, which all loans work. You know what I'm saying? You pay a principal amount for a certain period of time, and there's interest attached to that loan. So look at the way that they loan money is basically creating the money supply. When they loan out money, they create the money. They print it out of thin air. So every dollar that's printed into existence is printed out of thin air from the Federal Reserve, and they loan that dollar out on interest. Every dollar is loaned out on an interest. So basically, if you loaning out the money supply, which is the principal value, interest is money that hasn't been printed yet. You have this system where the FDIC banks, in order to keep constantly increasing the money supply, what they do is they have fractional reserve banking. Fractional reserve banking is something they they have in their modern money mechanics. And let me show you. Let me show you my screen. All right. I want to show you a couple things. Modern money mechanics. All right. Your university ain't gonna teach you this, and I ain't gonna charge you $40,000 for this information. Modern money mechanics. Now this is from the Federal Reserve itself. Okay, just to let you know, I'm not bullshitting with this information, and this ain't no conspiracy. These are facts that I'm presenting to you from the Federal Reserve. This is a workbook on bank reserves and deposit expansion. Bank reserves and deposit expansion. Reserves are basically the money that's in the bank. Fractional reserve banking is exactly what it sounds like. They have to keep a fractional of reserves in the bank at all times. So let's just say you have a billion. Let's just say you have $100 billion. Every bank has to keep at least 10% um, of you know of the reserves in the bank. So the minimum reserve requirement for the bank would be 10%. That means they have to have $1 billion in the bank at all times. Now, you probably wonder, well, what happens to, or 10%, 10 billion, I'm sorry, I said 10%, 10 billion in the bank at all times out of that 100 billion. So you probably wonder what happens to that other 90 billion in the bank. Well, they loan that 90 billion out so that they can generate more money. They're only required to hold 10 billion. If they have 100 billion, they can loan out 90 billion of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is what modern mechanics teaches. What is money? If money is viewed simply as a tool to facilitate transactions, only those media that are readily accepted in exchange for goods, services, and other assets need to be considered. Many things, from stones to baseball cards, blah 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 blah, served this monetary function through the ages. Today in the United States, money is used in transactions is mainly of three kinds: currency, paper money, and coins in the pocket and purse of the public demand. Deposits, non-interest bearing checking accounts in banks, and other checkable deposits such as negotiable order of withdrawal accounts at all depository institutions, including commercial and savings banks, savings and loan associations, and credit unions. Travelers' checks are usually included in the definition of transactions money, since $1 in currency and $1 in checkable deposits are freely convertible into each other, and both can be used directly for expenditures. They are money in equal degree. However, only the cash and balances held by the non-bank public are counted in the money supply. Deposits of the U.S. Treasury, depository institutions, foreign banks, and official institutions, as well as vault cash in depository institutions, are excluded. Now, that's basic. I'm basically reading this to let you know this is how they define money, and they basically explaining how money is created, who creates money. As you go down, you can see it says who creates the money, right? And what the Federal Reserve does, basically, when me and you write a check, we have to have an account that has the funds in the bank in order for it to be sufficient funds for those funds to be transferable to whoever I'm writing a check to. If and if there are no funds in my bank to be sufficient for the check amount that I'm writing, then that check will what? It'll bounce, right? So these people, they do the same thing, but the fucking money don't bounce. It's an actual transaction. So they are the ones who print the money out of thin air. The Federal Reserve is nothing. They're about as federal as FedEx. There's nothing federal about them. They are a privately owned institution and privately owned by international bankers. All right. So it goes down here to explain what fractional reserve banking is. So I explained what fractional reserve banking is. They have to basically keep a percentage of the reserves in the bank, and they're allowed to loan out and like the rest of the money. 90% of the fucking reserves that they have, they can loan it out to generate more funds for the bank, for the system. Now, when they loan this money out, what they're doing is they loan the money out. Let's say you get a loan for $100, right? I'm gonna make it low. You get a loan for $100 from the bank, and you take that $100, and remember, you have to pay, um, interest on that $100. Let's just act like this $100 is the money supply. So the Federal Reserve loaned the United States $100, and they're to pay 10% interest every 10 years on that $100. You know what I'm saying? Uh, or 10%. Yeah, that's fine. So with that $100, the 10% interest is basically money that hasn't been printed yet. But the $100 is the principal amount. So with that $100, if you loan that $100 out and on interest, and basically they're going to have to pay you back that $100 plus interest. If you have a fixed amount of money, that process won't last. The bank won't have enough money to loan out. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there always has to be reserves in the bank. So what they do to counter that is they say, well, hey, they record the money that when they loan out money, they record it in their books as a cash asset. All right. You got to look at the contract that you're engaging in. The loan contract is basically a promissory note. A promissory note is a promise to pay. Simply, a promissory note is like saying, I will pay you this much amount of money within a certain period of time and interest included if need be. That's what a promissory note is. Um, every dollar is basically a commercial version of a promissory note, a promise to pay. Everything that we use, checks, is a promissory note. Contracts, promissory notes. Bonds, promissory notes. They're just promissory notes. Okay. What they do is they take the promissory note, the contract itself, right, in which you sign on that contract. You sign your name on that contract. They take in that contract saying, I loan this person $100, right? But when they loan him or her $100, they put in their books that the loan itself is not a liability, but a cash asset. This is important. This is important because when they list it as a cash asset, what they're doing is creating more money in the money supply. So when it's listed in their books as a cash asset, they are basically increasing the money supply. So when I give you $100, how the fuck do you know that that $100 is actually worth $100 when in fact I have a copy of the $100 that you don't know about? This is how our financial system works. And you're probably listening to this like, get the fuck out of here. You think I'm lying? Ask any bank. I dare you to call any fucking bank and ask this bank, do you record the loans as actual cash assets or liabilities? They list it as an asset. And if you ask any banker, that they will know what the fuck you're saying. That's all you have to ask these dudes. That's all you have to ask these dudes. If the loan agreement is in fact a promissory note, you know what I'm saying? Do you record the promissory note itself as a cash asset? Because when you record it as a cash asset, and if this is and it has actual cash value, what you can do is sell the fucking debt. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this gives them the opportunity, right, to take your loan and sell it to another company, and a company can buy your debt. Think about it. They sell it off the pennies on a dollar because they know it ain't worth shit. They sell it off to somebody else. Meanwhile, if they sell it to somebody else, the amount in which you pay is the principal plus interest. What happens is the interest compounds and compounds the more you don't pay your bill or whatever the case. You know what I'm saying? But still, like, these people can compound your interest and compound your interest, and what used to be an agreement between you and wherever you got your loan from, the specific bank you got your loan from, now is an issue with a whole other different company who you never even met before, never spoken to before. These people basically just bought your debt, and now they're harassing you to pay this fucking debt back, in which the debt itself, right, was already paid at the time when the loan was signed with your fucking signature and accepted by the bank, which was not an actual loan of anything. It was a swap for paper, for not even paper. Because even with student loans, when you get a real loan, they give you, you know what I'm saying, they give you a check. No bank just gives you cash. They give you a check. They write you a check. They don't loan out money. No banks loan out money. And this is why. They can't loan out money. Because if they loan out money, they loan out the money, right? They can't do fractional reserve banking because they'll always run out of reserves. Do you understand? This is how banking works. So if this is how banking works and all things are monetized, there is no need for there's no need for university. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just like if our debt is going to keep going trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, you know what I'm saying? And these banks are going to constantly get bailouts and bailouts and bailouts. How are you bailing out these banks but not getting rid of poverty? It doesn't make any sense because it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be here to maintain the power of the ruling elite. These banking institutions, look, if anything was given to the public, the ruling elite never allow things, never allow the public to have certain access to things. For instance, especially black people. When it comes to black people, black Americans especially, everything that we're allowed to have, that wasn't meant to give us power. For instance, they gave us Bibles. That wasn't meant to free us. That wasn't meant to free us. They gave us hip hop, basically. They allowed us to do hip hop. Matter of fact, they co-opted hip hop and turned hip hop into a major business. Now it's like the biggest business in the world, pretty much, besides religion. But fucking, they allow hip hop. But look what they turn hip hop into. I mean, the people who have the power to control the media, the image of hip hop. Look what they have turned hip hop into. You know, just everything they give us is to further the agenda of the elites. It's not to give us any type of freedom, period. And we use these words, especially here in America, which I can't stand. We're so hypocritical. We call ourselves the land of the free, but everything costs. Everything costs. Every fucking thing costs. So now we looking at each other like, everybody has a price. And basically everybody does have a price in this type of, economy that we have. We have human traffickers out here. We have Jeff Epstein just got murked because he was about to tell on a whole bunch of people who are in the ruling, who are basically considered the ruling elites. He was telling on them for their involvement of this, sex trafficking. Now you got billionaires doing this shit. Billionaires doing this shit. It's crazy. Like you would think that if you were a billionaire, you would do anything to stay out of trouble, but have full on sex rings, human trafficking rings. That's crazy. That like that is insane. That's insane. Like if you were a billionaire, you have $1 billion. Why? You know what I'm saying? Then you got to convince people to do it. You dig? You got to pay people to do that shit. It's crazy. It's just and like I said, human trafficking ain't nothing but slavery. It's the same thing. It's just fancy word for slavery. We still got slavery going on. You know what I'm saying? And we're talking about some universities. It, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you can make this make sense to me, please. But we are engaging in a system that's anti-economical. They don't teach this in universities, so what's the point? This governs our everyday life. So if anybody needs to know this, it's the American people. The American people, period. And you know, I think it's partly our fault for because we didn't do our due diligence. You understand? It's partly our fault because we didn't do our due diligence as people to really understand, the system that governs us on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? We just methodically go through the motions, go through these educational stages from elementary to middle school, and we're straight brainwashed. Like they are brainwashing us, man. Like you have to understand when I say you're getting brainwashed. I'm not. It's not like all the teachers know what the you know it's not like all the teachers know that they're brainwashing you, and no, they're brainwashed too. I mean, look at the people who are working these jobs at as teachers or whatever. A lot of these people are just doing it because it's easy money. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I can shit, man. I mean, the curriculum ain't hard. I already know the curriculum. I can teach other people and just to, be around kids all 8 hours the other day. Shit, man, I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever's gonna put food on the table, you did. I'll do that shit. You know what I'm saying? You don't have. You really think that people grow up, you know, they start off as children being in, aspirational. You think they grow up and say, "Hey, I want to be a stripper when I grow up," or "Hey, I I want to be an assistant principal when I grow up." Like, come on, man. Like, come on. Let's think about it. We got to get rid of this monetary system. We got to get rid of it. You know, just it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit, and all it does is, breed corruption. And we can use a lot less corruption these days. So yeah, that's my thoughts on you know college and this student loan scam. That's going. It's so pervasive, man. And I was just looking at this today. student loans. Hold on. Let me see. All right, cool. Look, it says. Oh, I'm gonna go into all that. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, of outstanding student loan debt in the United States lies between 902 billion and 1 trillion, with around 864 billion in federal student loan debt. And look, the debt is just going to rise. Look, U.S. debt. This is in billions of dollars. It's just going to continue to rise, continue to rise, continue to rise. Why? Because of inflation. You know what I'm saying? First off, universities are already super expensive, and then you have inflation. So then, so then, as time goes on, these schools are just going to get more expensive and more expensive. And if you look at the U.S. national debt, let's look at the U.S. national debt. Almost $22 trillion. Look, hold on. As of December 31st, 2018, debt held by the public was 16.1 trillion and the intra-government holdings were 5.87 trillion for a total of 21.97 trillion. About $22 trillion national debt. Remember last year or a couple years ago it was at 20 trillion, just now crossing into 21 trillion. So it's just getting bigger and bigger. It's not getting smaller. All right. If I looked at a graph of the national debt, as you see here, it's same as the student loan debt. Same thing. It's just more money. And you would think that, well, shit, well, what the fuck are we going to do? By 2030, are we going to be at 50 trillion in debt? Like, what? Does anybody see anything wrong with this? Because you have to understand, money is debt. Is all money is owed to somebody from somebody. You know, so money itself is debt, and our system is a deficit spending system. So I know this is another economics lesson, but you have to understand economics if you really want to get into, you know, the student loan scam or the college scam. And let's get into, another facet of the college scam too. Now we know the main driver for these educational institutions are the athletic programs. We know that. Okay, we know this. Now they get around this shit. They get to basically rent out own a venue, right? So a stadium, or rent out a venue, and you know they fill the seats up. School gets paid. School gets paid. The better the athletic program, the more uh, students that campus can generate, that attend the games. You know what I'm saying? And it also correlates. Well, the better the athletic program, you know, the more students that campus would generate. All right, because people grow up with school pride for no reason. For no reason. You know what I'm saying? These schools don't give nobody shit but degrees. you know. But you yourself have to go out and get it. Your degree don't give it to you. You do it. You know what I'm saying? It's your personality. Yeah, it might help, as a requirement, but you know, other than that, that degree really don't mean shit. It really doesn't. You know what I'm saying? How you can apply the knowledge from the institution that you got that degree from, that's a whole other story. You feel me? And even when you're looking for a job, work experience is preferred more than educational experience. I'll tell you that firsthand. Firsthand. But anyway, but you have these education or athletic programs that these educational institutions have, and they capitalize on the fact that these are basically professional athletes. They're professional athletes. I mean, they're of adult age. In other countries, you got people at 18 years old, some even younger than that in other countries, making thousands of dollars in their home countries for playing in their European leagues or overseas leagues. You know what I'm saying? Or international leagues. There's all sorts of international leagues out there that allow 18-year-olds, go ahead and make their paper and things like that. And we used to allow 18-year-olds, before Braun, all the way up to Braun, basically. Braun was basically like the last one, but um, they stopped doing that old 18-year-old shit and said, hey, you need to have at least a year of experience, of college experience, or a year out of high school before you can go to the NBA. They made that little rule up, just basically, to kind of have more control because sometimes these 18-year-olds, when they get out of high school, they're not ready for the NBA, like flat out. Like sometimes they get, they were getting drafted out of high school sometimes, and there would be so much expectations on these young players, and they just 18 years old. You have people in the league that played for a decade. You know what I'm saying? And that true professional players, that have an advantage because of their experience. You know, and so they made that little rule for that. I can understand that rule to a certain degree. I can understand, but this is what I don't understand though. Why ain't these kids getting paid? Because they are the ones who put in all the work, to put their schools in position to win tournaments and things like that, or whatever the case may be. Or they put the people in the seats. Period. They are the ones who put the people in the seats. You go to watch the people who hoop. You don't go to watch the coach. You don't go to watch none of that shit. You feel me? I mean, maybe some of y'all do, but you go to watch the players play. All right. And if they are working as hard as they're working just to get in that position, then they should get paid. You feel me? They should get paid. If you are 18 years or older, or even if it don't matter if you're 18 to me, honestly, if you're getting out of high school and you want to play basketball, I mean, I think that college sh- should pay their players. Period. They should pay their players. I think the NCAA should just be another professional league. You know what I'm saying? I think they should fucking grow up and fucking pay these players and stop screwing these players before people start looking for a different outlet and they start going overseas and they be like, man, fuck the United States. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not gonna go to school here and all that shit, man. Fuck that. I'd rather get paid to play and they'll go overseas. Just like Brandon Jennings did. That's one of the things. That's something that Brandon Jennings did. You know what I mean? He went overseas after they made that little rule. He went overseas. And the thing about it is, these coaches, which most of these coaches are white coaches, they tell you everything that you want to hear just to get you to the school. And you know, from my experience, they have this thing about, you know, when they recruit black players, you gotta understand there's a very black people only own 2.6% of all the wealth in our nation, and white people own 90%. So you got a white coach, right, who's trying to build his whole team up, and he's getting paid to be the coach. He's getting paid to be the coach. All right. And he's recruiting his players, and sometimes he comes up and he acts like he's going to be the father figure of the players. You know what I'm saying? Like the father that they never had, like the father that these brothers never had. You know what I'm saying? And you see a lot of that dynamic at these colleges, for real, for real. Like, man, they will act like you know they basically like y'all related. Act, keyword act, and they pump you up, man, and they tell you, man, uh, you should be. They act like you should be honored to be at this school, and things of that nature. But they're all in it for self. They're all in it for self because after you leave school, after you leave college, you know, they don't give a fuck. Players come and players go, and they run that shit like plantations, and they run the NBA like a plantation too. You know what I'm saying? And I think if black folks woke up and started realizing how talented we were and how much we better off we would be on our own, you know, we let the NCAA hold its own nuts. We let the NCAA hold its own nuts, and we have so many players out here that can hoop, that are so talented. They don't need the NCAA to show their stardom. There's so many players out here. So um, I think that's a scam in itself, to where you don't even pay these players, but you guys use their likeness for what? Video games, posters, all sorts of shit. Jerseys, you sell all sorts of products with their likeness, with their name, and they know they do. You know what I'm saying? And these players don't get to eat off of none of that. They don't get to eat off of none of that. You know what I'm saying? And then people say, well, they get scholarships. Yeah, scholarships which they earn. Scholarships aren't just given to everybody. They earn those scholarships. So if they earn the scholarships, yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to look at it like this: the education should be free anyway. The education should fucking be free anyway. So, them getting the scholarship to offset them not paying the players, that's some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I feel like educational system should be one thing. If you're gonna have an athletic program, just have a league. You know what I'm saying? Just have you a league. You know what I mean? Don't affiliate it with these educational systems and on one side of the game. You feel me? To where this is supposed to be an institution of higher learning, but then you getting into the realms of professional athletes. You got professional athletes. Okay, they need to be paid. Okay, this is extracurricular because you still have to go to school and you have hooping or whatever sport that you play. It's extracurricular, so you should get paid. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they're not paying you, they're fucking you. Either way, no matter how you're looking at it. Yeah, you might have a good year and you might be cool with your coach, but your coach is only, what I'm saying, going to be cool with you for the most part, to the extent of, you know, you doing what he tell you to do, and y'all winning games. You know what I'm saying? And he fucks with y'all. If you bring a championship, he'll fuck with you the long way. If you don't bring him a championship, he'll forget about you. You know what I'm saying? He'll forget about you. And that's just how that shit go, man. That's just how players go. Players come, players go. Coaches come, they go. And now the NBA ha- has been, or no, the NCAA basically has this rule, and they've been kind of partnering up with the NBA too with this, to where they're making more restrictions on basically agents, people who want to be agents. Now you're going to have a degree, a 4-year degree. You know what I'm saying? You need to have your bachelor's degree now. So it's forcing you to go to school if you want to be certain professions. And I have a big problem with that because you have poverty, which is man-made. Black people don't create poverty. We're just subjects to poverty because of the system that we have. But, you know, now you're getting into a classism where black people, when we talk about classism, black people is synonymous to, broke people. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. When we talk about class, social classes, talk about, financial classes, we know that black people are on the lower classes. Like I said, we only own 2.6% of all the wealth in our nation. That's not because of the fact we are black, you know what I'm saying? But it's because, we live in a system of white supremacy. Do you understand? So our skin doesn't make us impoverished because of it, that's what it is. It's not like God made us like this and he made us to be broke. No, it's the system that which you live in, the social economical system that exists and that you're subjected to. And that is why most black people in America don't have any wealth. And that is why they expect us to not have any wealth by the year 2053. You know what I'm saying? By the year 2053, they expect the black community to be at zero wealth. I think we're pretty much almost there anyway. You know what I'm saying? Um, and yeah, man, this is where we're at right now. This is where we're at. NBA, and the NCAA, they're moving that goalpost to keep, black entrepreneurs out of that profession. You know, you have Rich Paul who was, eating over there with Bron and Anthony Davis, over there with Clutch Sports, and man, they were just doing the damn thing. Now, honestly, I don't think that rule was specifically for, Rich Paul. I think that rule was for LeBron James because LeBron James, people don't realize how much power he has and how much he uses and flexes in the NBA. That rule was made because LeBron James controls who gets traded to what teams and things like that. It appears to me that he's allegedly calling the shots for Rich Paul's company. You know what I'm saying? Which Bron basically gave to Rich Paul, and you know. So I don't think it was for Rich Paul. I think it was for LeBron. But then at the same time, it kills two birds with one stone and say, well, shit, we don't want these black people, these black entrepreneurs to come out of high school and do what he did. You know what I'm saying? We need to have more of a basis of restriction so these people can't just, compete with us in our financial fields. And that's what we have right now. That's what we have and accept it. This is your system. This is the government you live in. Um, you know, um, this is America. And if you are a young adult and you're just now uh, getting out of high school, you're thinking about what school you want to go to, take in consideration um, how much it costs. What's it going to cost, and what are you really going for? Like, really think about it. Because if you sit there and you think about, and the first thing that you think about is, well, shit, there's going to be a lot of people there, and I might be able to, you know, go party and have fun and all that shit. If that's what you're thinking of, then, you know, just don't go. You feel me? just don't go. If you're thinking about where you want to party or any of that shit, if that has any place in your mind while thinking about, you know, whether or not you should engage into this long-term investment, if that's what you think, my advice would be don't go. Then it ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a bad thing for it to not be for you. Because if that's not for you, then you have a better opportunity of making money for yourself or making some shape for yourself. You feel me? And yeah, and you won't have to be in debt all your life either. So let me know what y'all think about this, man. I try to be as thorough as possible, on, on my opinion on whether or not I think college is a good thing for the American people, let alone black people, black Americans. So let me know what y'all think about this video, man. Comment, like, share it. I appreciate those who came up in here, said what's up. Make sure y'all go to oneloveculture.com, get you some fly gear. You dig? And yeah, man, we're gonna cut this one short, man. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Y'all be safe. 100.